Yeah, if you go to Facebook, and you type in a search for Messengers International short films, there's a short film called The Prisoner. And it's all about this guy that wants his 3 square meals. All he cares about is hot dog Wednesday and his orange suit and his metal bed. And so this, Green Beret comes in to save him, or Navy SEAL, whatever, kind of like Jesus. But he doesn't want to give up his prison cell. And how sad it is for anybody who has love to see their children lost in whatever lust of the flesh it is, drugs, too much food, being lazy. There's a lot of pain and suffering parents go into, and God has feelings too. How sad for him to send Jesus and for us to only value being self-righteous. It's got to be a lot of pain and suffering for him to see us love the prison. We had a pretty deep conversation about that today. That's the hell of self-righteousness, loving the power of darkness. It's not easy to be a liar, and it's not easy to be cunning and crafty. It's a lot easier to have a continual feast of revelation to those that have put away lying, speak the truth in love, member each other, because the yoke of Jesus is the burden that's easy and light, not the yoke of lying and being pretentious and giving people the bread of hypocrisy that's actually killing us and other people. So I was telling another little story about a tree. We have a tree in our backyard. I was going to put this at the end, but pretend like I'm speaking at the end because I have one more story to tell. But we have a tree in the backyard. And one day it didn't have any life and it looks like it was ready to croak and die. And the next day, 24 hours later, it was full of buds and leaves were blooming. It's not very hard to change your mind about loving the powers of darkness, hiding behind the bushes. Men love the power of darkness more than the light. They don't come into the light. They don't want to see. So there's just a war between the kingdom of love, faith, hope, and love, God's dimension of rule, and the kingdom of all the lusts and vices of the flesh, all of them, which there might be too many for me to even name. So the war is between two fathers and two kingdoms. And anybody that's had a parent that's been an alcoholic or a drug addict, there's no love there. It's a tragedy to see people waste their life on some horrible addiction because they're running from themselves, understanding their soul. And so the other story I was going to tell was about, again, I told it at the end of a long video, so most people probably never even watched it except for people on the other side of the world. So I'll tell it here in this short one. We watched the Nuremberg trials, and Gene was talking about it because all these Hitler guys had no clue of the massive carnage that was actually going on with their little part. Neither did most of the Germans. So Gene was talking about that the other day, and in light of one of these guys, all he did was put a little hole in a big dam. Small thing. We're a little small ministry too, and we can think very small of ourselves, and maybe our lives really aren't that big of a deal. But if we have a finger and there's a hole in a great big huge dam, just holding our finger in there might save a lot of lives if there was some flood that was going to take a lot of people out. So in this film that we watched about the Holocaust, all of this guy was told to do was go put a little pinhole, a little tiny like finger hole in a big dam. But then years later, when everybody's being indicted and they're bringing this film footage to him, he actually buried 20,000 people alive or something, some horrendous number like that. He had no idea he was burying people alive with a little finger hole that he put in the dam, right? The water just trickled away from him, the trickle effect, trickle economics of Satan himself. So most people don't walk into a room and say, man, I'm on a mission to kill and steal and destroy you today. But there's a spirit at work in the children of disobedience. And when we fail, it says the woman who has no delight in understanding is the mother, sister, brother, the person to those that commit suicide. So the spirit at work in the children's that chuck off the voice of God in their soul you know, you don't think anything about it, not at all, you know. But that's really where the war is. Are we going to live in the dimension of accusing and excusing people, or are we going to listen to God's voice and learn how to love people even when there's a spirit at work in the child of disobedience that we're talking to? Can we actually help them wash their feet? You know, it's kind of deep. I was going to tell one more story too, and I lost it, but you know, I just wanted to add these little comments in here. If I think of the other story, I'll make another short little video. There was one other little story I was going to tell. Yeah, it's just not coming to my mind. Anyway, talk to you later. Bye-bye.